Taxi driver was a jerk, bragging about how he had taken advantage of a drunk girl he picked up in the party zone of the city. It was the most uncomfortable taxi ride of my life. What is the most horrific thing that someone has told you super casually? Hey there viewer, so glad you can join me for another story time. If we haven't met yet, I'm Andrew, your go-to Reddit narrator, and today's story is gonna be wild. So strap and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome stories. If you do, I'll make sure to send you some white claws. Let's get into the stories. My therapist told me how she ran two people over, killing one and paralyzing the other during our first meeting. Lawyer here. I was representing a teenage boy charged with molesting a younger relative. His mother told me, "What's the big deal? I was molested as a kid and it didn't hurt me." I once asked my grandfather, "How you doing, grandpa?" And he said, "Not good, not good. I moved my bowels 3 times already today. Went to the doctors and they put a tube in my penis." Should I mention we were at a family funeral? Supervisor at work, Dwayne had his baby yesterday. Me, oh great. Boy or girl? Supervisor dead. Like WTF? Really? Poor guy and his wife had a stillborn. A relative told me about killing man who was attempting to rape him in the back of a truck once casually over drinks. Edit because English is confusing. The rape did not occur casually over drinks. The conversation did. I have homicidal intrusive thoughts. They border on impulses and I often feel like I'm being pulled towards them. I walked out on a date in the middle of a movie because I couldn't stop thinking about strangling her. To be fair, we were at a mental hospital. When I was in 7th grade, there was a rumor going around that a student had been raped during a football game. She got called to the principal's office in math class. It was a collaborative class, so 4 to 5 people at each desk. I was like, "I hope she's okay," and the girl across from me said, and I quote, "I don't know why everyone's making such a big deal about this. You can't rape black girls. Can't forget that one." I was on a date with this girl, and we drove by a fast food joint and a shared parking lot. She deadpan said, "My mom used to park here and shoot heroin with her BF, while me and my brother sat in the backseat." Me. Oh, wow. I was a heroin baby my mom was using while she was pregnant. Me. Oh. When I was 20-something back in the 90s, I was sitting on the front steps of my condo waiting for my sister's husband to pick me up. Nice old fellow, a tenant of my building, sat down next to me. His first sentence he'd ever spoken to me was, "Did you hear that they're taking my testicles off on Thursday?" I responded that I had not. He continued, "Yep, don't use them much anymore after the missus died." Mercifully at that moment my brother-in-law drove up. That he was going to prison for burning down a church. I had seen this guy about 10 times since the supposed accident. We were all hanging out and he said, "Guess what?" and that was that. Edit. This happened in South Texas for anyone wondering. Edit. And I laughed that he tried to gouge his girlfriend's eyes out, burned down her house and killed her 2 dogs. This guy had never raised his voice once. This was seriously out of left field. Edit. Goddamn guys. I never realized how many church arsonists there were. When I was in college, there was this guy who would hang around me sometimes that seemed just a little bit off. But he was nice, and we both had similar interests, so we hung out. One day, after I hadn't seen him for weeks, he tells me it's because the police were interviewing him. He tells me this story. Him and his 2 friends were in the woods, shooting a .22 pistol. Friend number 3 tries to fire and it doesn't go off. Friend number 3 looks into the barrel to check the gun. The gun then goes off, firing the round in there, and then the next round. Shooting him twice in the face. You read that correctly. 3 guys went into the woods with a .22 pistol, 2 walked out, and the third was shot twice in the face and died. Anyone who knows anything about guns knows this is basically impossible. But since guy and friend number 2 both had the same story, and the cops had no way to prove otherwise, no charges were filed. I stopped hanging out with that guy. Forever. I called my cousin and at the beginning of the convo, I asked what she was doing. She said, "Oh, just standing at the counter looking at my hand." I thought it was a little weird, but my cousin is a little weird, so I forgot about it. Anyway, half an hour later she goes, the blood has now stained my shirt, I think I should hang up and go to the ER. I was like, what? So she replied, oh, I stabbed myself with the meat cleaver 10 minutes before you called, and the knife is still in my hand. I'm fine, but my shirt is now ruined. I was joking with an acquaintance once, and he told me that he was going to move in a couple of months. We weren't really close enough for me to care, but I asked him why out of pure curiosity. In the same breath, without hesitation, he told me that he had been in the foster system all his life despite knowing his biological dad personally. His dad was some big businessman in New York City and didn't have the time to raise a son. He had been with 11 different families in 15 years, and in each one he prayed he'd get adopted. It never happened. The family that he was with at that moment told him they were thinking about adopting him, but changed their minds last minute. Now he's in a constant state of expecting to move because he just assumes that no one will ever want to adopt him. If you're reading this, I hope you're doing good, Michael. A couple of years ago I was on one of those music festival cruises. I was sitting down waiting on my friends to finish their drinks and whatnot when this lady sits down next to me. Somehow we get to talking about dogs. I tell her about mine, she tells me that hers is a comfort dog. I didn't ask her to elaborate because it wasn't any of my business, but she tells me it's because she didn't leave her house for 5 years. Again, I didn't ask why. She went on to tell me, a perfect stranger who'd been talking to her for all of 5 minutes, that her ex-boyfriend was stalking her and broke into her house, so she had to shoot him and kill him. The guy I worked with said that in the late 80s he lived with 5 other guys in an apartment in New York. Some time after the HIV test is developed, all of the roommates agree to get tested. Apparently the results were mailed to them. Basically, one guy got the mail and opened everyone's test. In so doing he finds out one of the roommates has HIV. He shows the test results to every roommate except the guy who is HIV positive. Then they destroy the test results. They all pack their stuff and abandon apartment and the HIV positive guy. None of them ever spoke to the HIV positive roommate again. They never told him his test results. The guy I worked with laughed so hard telling me this story. It's ducked up. The guy I worked with had no remorse or a second of compassion even 30 years later, and knowing the HIV positive roommate probably died. Who knows how many people the unknowing HIV positive guy may have unknowingly transmitted HIV to before he had serious symptoms. JP, if you're reading this, duck you. Heartless bastard. My mom was in the ER in September 2019. She had stage IV colon cancer and was in a lot of pain and other stuff. The DR came in and just basically said, well, you have some heart failure and your liver is failing. And just walked out. WTF. My mom died 14 hours later from septic shock that they did not tell us but had it wrote down in her chart. Ugh. Makes me so angry writing it. Edit. Wow, I had no idea this would get that much attention. Y'all are more sympathetic than my therapist. Thank you to whomever gave the award. I don't know what it means, but thanks. Edit 2. My mom was actually getting treatment in Houston in July 2019. She had sepsis then, and her oncologist told her to call all family and friends in as if something happened, it would happen quick. Her sister was the only one with her then, and the rest of the family was 8 hours away. We hauled ass there, and her DR was shocked that she was okay. We met with him after she got out of hospital there, and he said, there is nothing else we can do but go to your local hospital and they might have something, or we recommend you go on hospice. We were crying hysterically and the DR had to actually walk out of the room. He started crying. So, we came home and she met with local oncologist 2 hours away. He was rude and didn't understand why she was trying to get treatment close to home. She was supposed to have blood work done every week, I think. The day before she passed away, she went to her primary DR and was 5 or so minutes late, and they cancelled her spot without calling. Apparently they don't realize PPL with cancer get weaker and weaker and are going slower than normal. Not that having that appointment would have changed the outcome, but holy crap. We could have had a warning or something. When she was at the localer, the DR said she needed to be transported to a better hospital for PPL in her condition. This was at 8 a.m. She didn't get transferred until 3:30 p.m. to a hospital that was 3 hours away. When my aunt and I got there, she wasn't responsive, she was at local ER. I had to call my dad and younger brother and tell them she wasn't going to make it. That was the hardest thing I have ever done. Life has been a ducking disaster since she died, as she was the glue that literally kept everything together and everybody getting along. I have been so depressed and angry since everything. Sorry if this is all over the place. Thanks for reading. Thanks for watching. What did you think of the story time? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more story times.